Hi. Today we're sitting down with the unstoppable Angela Grout. Good morning.
Good morning.
For 35 plus years, the heart and soul behind Agawam Flower Shop, where she's designed over 1,000 weddings and 2,200 funerals while running every aspect of the business like a one-woman circus. Somewhere in the middle of juggling 5 weddings, 7 funerals, and a partridge in a pear tree in a single day, she became an author, playwright, podcast host, theatrical producer, and the powerhouse who just took Ken Harris's one-man show, Foes of a Minimum Wage Guard, off Broadway at Theater Row. Angela believes every single thing she's ever done, from the flower cooler to the stage, has prepared her for exactly what she's doing right now. And she's nowhere near done. Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was quite the introduction I wasn't expecting, but yes, thank you. My hands have
Excellent.
touched over a million roses, and I got the
Well,
stories to prove it.
the producers were delighted when they first contacted you and you reached out, and they just thought you were a powerhouse of exactly the kinds of combination of skill sets, determination, vision, and accomplishments that we're looking for to highlight on this podcast.
Well, I'm honored.
So, well, you deserve it. It's not easy to excel in general, and you've proven to excel in multi layers at the same time. And I think that holds a lot of interest for the public, especially because people think you should be slowing down as you get on in years, and you're showing quite the opposite. You're just going gangbusters. And similar to my life a little bit, exploring new and exciting avenues to express your creativity. So I'm delighted to be able to ask you some questions about this insane life you have, which is
Yeah, let's
amazing.
do it. Let's do it.
Okay. So, as I've mentioned, your career spans floristry, writing, producing. How do you find that these different skills complement one another when you're tackling a new project?
Oh gosh, they totally all connect. I mean, being a florist, whether I'm doing a large event or a wedding or just a simple bouquet for you to send to your wife on, Thanksgiving Day, I mean, it's all a production. So the fact that, when you're creating one arrangement for flowers, like there's still the thought process and the pre-planning process that goes into it, because you may call me on the day you want the flowers, but I had to be psychic about it, weeks earlier when I ordered the flowers and ordered the container that it would go in, and, be able to not only have the supplies ready to be used, but also have the talent and the hands and the time and the opportunity to create it. And I think that, goes hand in hand with writing and with producing shows, because as an author, I mean, I can have the story just like you can have the idea to send someone flowers. We can have that idea all day long. But in order to actually create the idea and put it on the page, that takes hands. And
Mhm.
then, there's all the pre-planning and post-planning of writing, whether it's a book or a production, of knowing what goes into it. Because, especially if you're writing like a play, you got to think, how many characters am I going to have? And how many actors is that going to take? Because
Mm.
even though there might be 9 characters, maybe you only need 5 actors to play all 9, so it's just a matter of being versatile. And, I know it sounds strange to compare actors or novels and chapters to flowers, but same thing. If I'm going to do a flower arrangement, I'm not going to make it just of all sunflowers. I mean, if you want that, I'll give it to you. I'm going to do what you ask. But
Right.
at the same time, the fact that I have in my, at my disposal, and I've already pre-thought, okay, I'm going to have sunflowers and carnations and roses and, whatever the mix is to do, whether it's in that color, or you have to be flexible to work with the tools you have. So,
Mhm.
for me, when I'm writing, I tend to write more from, oh, I want to say like sometimes a spiritual level, like to sit down
Right?
and let it come through me. And
Mm.
same thing with, doing a flower arrangement or creating a wedding, decorating a whole venue. It's coming through me, like, the ideas and the creation that we want to see. So it's definitely all interrelatable. And I've always been a time management person. It was one of my favorite classes in college. I went to college for accounting, but literally doing time management and like being able to sit at your calendar and kind of just block out that time, and say, okay, this is the time I'm going to talk to Jeff Ornstein. Like, okay, I'm blocking out that time. But after that, what's my next block of time and how am I going to use it? And, when you're prioritizing, at the flower shop, if I was prioritizing, yes, I have to get my deliveries out on time. But if there's a funeral that's at 2 o'clock, damn well know I'm going to make sure that gets top priority because I'm not going to be late delivering that one, but I'm still going to make the other deadlines. And I think, everything I've done in my life has led me to where I am today, obviously.
Right. Well, knowing personally a floral designer, I know that there's storytelling. It's not just let's throw these blossoms in a vase, you're storytelling. So there's definitely a linearity between floral design and writing and plays and theater. So kudos to you. But how did you find the time to start writing while you're running this shop where you're got to be getting orders out, like you say, on a super timely
Yeah.
basis?
Well, one thing, my mind can be multitasking at many times. So in this corner of my mind, I can be writing a story. In this corner of the mind, I can
I
be
love it.
planning next week's orders. But I work on what I'm working on in the present moment and, doing that. For me, writing was like my release when I came home from work. Before I even go to work, I have to write. I have to write my to-do list for the day. And it could be something as simple as, get gas for the car, pick up the flowers, cut the flowers. I would make to-do lists for each of my employees. And once it was on paper, then it like can manifest.
Right. Right.
Because I can have in my head everything that needs to be done, but especially when you need help with things and you have employees and assistants, if you don't communicate to them what you need, it's not going to get done. People don't read your mind. So,
Right.
number one, manifesting what I need done on a page helps me. And then at the end of the day, there's times where I need to just unwind and write the story of the day. Like whether it was a creative story that came to me or something that really did happen to me. And working with flowers is a very spiritual experience. It really is. And, when I'm having those spiritual moments, it's like, we will continue to work throughout the day and we'll talk about it. But then I have to write it down because like I said, when I write it down, I'm seeing the thought, which then can manifest into something else, which of
Mm,
course for me manifested into a couple books that I wrote. Cause it's like, you know what? I, I have to get the story told. Like, Wayne
right.
Dyer said, you can't die with your story inside you. And I know a lot of people who have died with the story inside them. And because I know some of their story, I like to say some of the books that I write are fictional memoirs because
Mhm.
they weren't able to write their memoir. And therefore, if I know their story is important, I want to write it, but I don't have the rights to their story. And B, I
Mhm.
can't necessarily always prove that that's their story. And of
Mhm.
course, I can spice it up because, that's what we do. Like a chef, you got to spice it a little and, make it
Absolutely.
interesting. My third book, April Rain, which I now have written as a screenplay, and I'm in pre production mode of doing things with that. Like that was inspired by a girl who was murdered in my town. And I
Ooh,
did her flowers for the funeral. So, of course, from the moment she was murdered, to when it was solved 25 years later. And
wow.
that entire time I was at my shop. We would talk about
Right.
it every day. Every day, the
Mm,
what if scenarios, the creative, crazy ideas. I did work with some of the police officers in town because when they would come in, I'd go, so what do you think of this scenario? And sometimes they'd look at me and go, wow, you have a vivid imagination. And other times they would have a poker face of, I was like, ooh, I might be onto something.
right.
And
Right.
for me to write that sort of fictional memoir, I can't tell the truth. I don't know the truth. I can
Right.
explore all these what if scenarios. For me, writing it gave me, of course, you write sometimes for yourself, it gave me the peace of mind of knowing this may be better than what really happened to her. So maybe it can give me a little bit of peace. It's still not, it's a murder mystery. I don't want anyone to get murdered,
Right. So
but
you wrote it as a book initially, and then you translated it into a screenplay?
so I wrote it as a book initially in kind of crazy out of order chapters when before the final draft. And then when I was doing my editing and putting it in order with someone who does copywriting and proofreading to make sure that it was told in the proper order. I don't
Mhm.
introduce Jeff in chapter 1 and never tell you who he is until chapter 20, like things like that. But I ended up realizing I needed more dialogue in it. So I took a playwriting class and I actually developed it into a stage play. And I wrote a few monologues. I wrote the stage play for it. In writing the stage play for it, I was able to give the characters voices so that they actually, told the story and it wasn't a narrated story. And then I presented it to my local theater. And of course, a couple things happened. One, they said that it was too close to home to do
Mm,
because it was an unsolved murder at the time. And number
mhm,
two, they did give me some leeways where to go, but then the pandemic came and it shut everything down. So I
mhm.
went ahead and did the book. I said, I'm going to publish the book. I got to get the book out. The book came out. I still worked on the play, but then as I was doing the play, a couple of the people who had done my reading of the play had said, there's a lot of characters in this. And as you probably know, when you're doing stage work, smaller theaters or regular theaters, I'm not talking Broadway, but they to maybe 8, 9 characters, or actors on the stage. And I believe there's 53. So they're like, it's more of a movie, which I 100% thought in the beginning, because when the muse came to me, she's literally telling me it's a graphic novel, it's a movie, and I'm like, I'm not a graphic novelist. I explored those things. I went to the library, I looked them up. It just wasn't something I was passionate about. You have to be passionate to tell the story that way. So I was comfortable doing it in prose, and turning it that way. But what I did is I started writing a screenplay for it. Because I go, okay, if it's a movie, let's figure out how to do this. So I took some screenplay classes, studied screenplays. I have a cousin who has written some screenplays and he produces a show in Philadelphia. So I was able to kind of talk with him and network with some people. And once I got it down, I say this to a lot of the guests who come on my show, when the student's ready, the teachers or guides appear. And I am a member of the International Women's Writers Guild, and I happened to meet a woman who, Linda Bernstein, she has done 22 after school specials for ABC. She has written a lot of movies. And I just started talking to her and she said, well, why don't you give me your script? She calls herself the screenwriting script goddess. So she took it and she was able to guide me on how to tweak certain things. And I was like, okay, yeah, this has got to be a movie. It's one of those things been on my bucket list for 30 years. And here I am now, not a florist anymore. I closed the shop. I'm
Oh.
retired, which is weird. I mean, I am tired and I get tired every day. So that means I'm retired. But, I said, these are my goals. I made myself an aggressive 3-year list after going to a women's conference. And she said, make yourself a bucket list just for the next year or two. Be kind and gentle with yourself. And I said, I'm getting
Well,
aggressive. No,
yeah.
you don't know how much time you got left on this earth, and why procrastinate something you can do today for tomorrow? So I said, I have 2 more books that are done that need to be published, which I'm happy to announce I just got a publisher for that book and it will be happening in
Congratulations.
the next couple months. And then, I have another book that I need to get published, and then I have the movie I want to make, and I have a musical script for the stage that's done and we just did a reading for. And I said, that's it. In the next 3 years, I'm doing these things. And if I don't do them, then maybe they're not meant to be done. Because at some
Right.
point, you got to just and I don't want to say throw in the towel, but,
But
time and
it's gotta
effort.
percolate. It's gotta
Yeah.
percolate.
Yeah.
And, you could have a great idea and you have the germ of it, and if it can get cooking and, and some might percolate faster than others. And
Yes.
some who knows, you could put it down and come back to it and see it in a different light, and then it percolates them.
Oh,
So, are the inspirations for the books and the screenplays, are they all coming from firsthand life experiences, or are you fantastical, or how does that work? How do you get inspired?
so I'm going to use this statement. I don't know if I want to use statement, but I can talk to dead people.
You can use it.
you know, I raised Catholic, have big spirituality, definitely, pray to my saints and God and the Holy Spirit. And I do have this connection with the other side, which I have explained on some story slams that I've done because I ate my twin in the womb.
Oh, that could explain a bunch.
That explains stuff because there wasn't enough for 2 of us here. One had to be here and one had to be there. But anyways,
Right.
everything I write, and I'm going to quote Margaret Atwood, has happened in the world, just not necessarily in my world.
Okay.
However,
Reasonable.
a lot of stuff has happened in my world, and whether I have heard about it, witnessed it, or actually lived through it, and I've had, I want to say I'm very blessed. I've had a lot of different spiritual experiences that I have actually witnessed and lived through. So some of them are definitely incorporated in my book. Like my first book, An Angel's Journey, is about a girl who came to me from the afterlife who wanted to tell her mother she was okay. I didn't know her. I've had experiences like this many times, and it's like, you know what? I only explain it that, I know who Jesus is. I didn't walk the earth with Jesus, but I have a really tight relationship with him now. So that's how I explain, these things. When something happens like in the news in my neighborhood, like the girl who was murdered, I mean, there is the draw of like, we were the same age, we looked the same. We had, a lot of similarities. So of course at the time we're thinking, is this a serial killer? Is that the type he's looking for? Was it a
Mm,
mob hit? Was it an intentional death? Was it an accidental death? We don't know. We didn't know. So there were so many what if situations that prompted me to get creative. So
mhm.
even though it happened from something that happened in my life, it didn't happen to me. So like when
Right.
I'm writing about being dead, I mean, I'm not dead.
Right.
But you can use that creative imagination to write from that point of view. The book that is going to be published soon is called Being in My Breast, and it's about a woman who had breast cancer and died. And when
Mm.
I had beta readers reading it, I had a few of them, like literally within probably the first 3 chapters, texting me going, Angela, do you have breast cancer? Are you dying? Like, what are you telling me? Because I'm going to boast, but like it's written very authentically. So you think it's from me and it's coming through me.
Do you think your ability to write authentically about something you haven't personally experienced is taps into somehow your telekinetic abilities to speak with
Sure.
other planes right
Sure.
now?
Why not? Sure.
I would think so.
I definitely think so. When I first wrote my first book, of course, there's a lot of anxiety of, oh, what are people going to think? Are they going to think, that I'm a medium or that everyone's going to be like, oh, talk to this person for me. What are they saying? Like, whatever comes, comes.
Mhm.
The play I've written is called In the Middle of the Night. And it literally is the story of a writer fighting with her muse. Because in the
Mhm.
middle of the night is when I will wake. My husband has seen this many times. And there are some nights where I'm like, can I just sleep and can you come back in the morning? But like when the idea strikes you and whether you're waking up with the idea or it's coming from a dream that you just had, it has to be written down. So
Right.
I set up this thing where I, literally take my phone out and I'll set it for 15, 20 minutes and I'm like a doctor, like, okay, here's my pen, let's go. And just let
Let's
the
do it.
pen flow.
Right.
Doing that, I mean, there has been times that I did that even writing April Rain, the murder mystery, waking up in the middle of the night, writing something from a dream, and then it continues, now my creative imagination's kicking in, but I didn't like what I wrote. Like, I
Mm.
don't want to be writing dark, ugly rape, murder scenes, anything like that. So I'm like shredding the paper or trying to burn the paper, and then guess what? It comes back. Because if
It
the
has to be
muse
told.
has a story, the muse is going to tell its story, and the play in the middle of the night really is about the muse fighting with her going, I mean, I wrote a song and it's called You Gotta Write It, and the muse is like, I don't sing well but I'll sing a little, you gotta write it, you gotta write it, because if you don't write it, it could be wrong, and it's like, and like the muse trying to very gently say, like, even if you write it, it doesn't mean it's R-I-G-H-T right, but
Mhm.
it might right, R-I-G-H-T, a wrong. So
Right.
like even though you don't know who killed this girl, telling the story in this way may give it peace. And
Right.
one of my biggest dreams, inspirations, was me really arguing with my muse of, I don't think I should be publishing this murder mystery. Like I feel scared. What are people going to think? And
Mm.
I literally had this dream and I wrote it down. And to me, it brought so much clarity. Is my car is parked in a parking lot, shopping parking lot, and I come out of the store and there's a shopping carriage wedged into the door, the driver's side door. It's damaging the car. There are no cameras around, there's no witnesses around, no one's around. Now, I can think two things. One, someone deliberately did it, or two, the wind blew the carriage. I'm never going to know the truth. Which truth is going to make me feel better?
Right.
And I was
Good
like,
point.
taking a deep breath, going, you know what? This story isn't what happened to that girl, but reading it lets me breathe a little bit better, And
Right.
I think any story that can be told that can bring someone a little bit of peace and, of course, entertainment and, hopefully money to the person who writes it, is worth telling.
Now, your one-woman show conceptually blends humor and real-life struggles, and which comes as no surprise to me because you're equally inclined to tell a joke and say something entertaining as you are to touch on something serious and heartfelt and disturbing, if you will. So, How do you blend that? I mean, do you have your audience in mind when you're blending it, or are you just letting the creative juices flow and you're getting it down and then stepping away and coming back to it?
Yeah, I will let the creative juices flow first, but then during the editing process, I will start to think of the audience. A lot of times I think of myself as the audience because,
Mhm.
I'm trying to write something that's whether it's my truth or something that's going to make me be interested to keep writing, and
Mhm.
then when I'll present it to friends or family, and then it's a matter of then, almost like when you're sending your kid off to kindergarten, it's like you get outside influence coming in. And
Right.
and that's the scary thing about publishing, because even when I have a podcast called Why Write, where I have writers come on talking about why they published their book and why they wrote it. And when you're publishing something, I mean, giving birth to a book is a huge labor of love, but once it's in the world, it takes on a life of its own because you can't control how someone else sees your story. I'll go back to my religious roots, but you open the Bible, you and I can read the same passage and it can mean something different to both of us. And
Mhm.
that's where a writer has to kind of like let it go. And I definitely have struggled with that for sure.
Yes, but you mentioned how like, "Oh, I'm gonna write this story," and people are gonna think, "Oh, I'm a crazy person. Why did I write this story?" But part of being an artist is to be fearless and to be
Yes.
courageous
Yes.
and say, "You know what? I'm gonna do this craft, and to heck with everybody else and what they may or may not think."
Yeah.
So, all right, I get a little bit over time here, but I'm just enjoying this so much. What's one story that you think you've got in the back of your mind that you haven't put pen to paper yet for? Do you have one
Yeah.
percolating back?
Oh, I have a lot.
I
I
would
have a lot.
imagine you have a
I have a
bunch.
lot. So I have a story. Oh gosh, which one do I pick? They're all like running at me, going me, 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 me. But I have a really cool story about a police officer who was killed in the line of duty on her first night of duty,
Mm.
and she came to me in a dream, and it ended up manifesting in my own life in about 7 days. And on like that seventh day, I never met this girl, but I gave her eulogy.
Oh, wow.
So I think it'd be a really good story to tell because if someone didn't believe in, life after death, like, I mean, I'm sorry, she was a police officer, she was in the military, she was killed on her first night of duty. I wake up in the middle of the night and I literally not only pen part of the dream I'm having, but end up seeing the connections and I start connecting a few dots. And within the first 12 hours, the stuff that manifested in my life was I kept saying it's not to prove to me that there's an afterlife. I know there is. And I mean,
Mhm.
when I was younger, I used to say to my parish priest, we say this prayer like, oh, we look for life ever after and the resurrection of the dead. I go, and if I found it, I'm supposed to keep my mouth shut because otherwise
Well
you're crazy.
well, I don't think you're crazy. I think you're like you're full of insights and intuition, and I think that that's what makes your creativity, like, so boundless. So, I've really enjoyed meeting you. I'm gonna keep my eyes open and my ears peeled to see when, some of your, more creative endeavors are on the market
Yeah.
and start watching your podcast too, because 'cause
Oh,
you've been a
thank you.
delight.
Yes,
You've been
please
a
share my podcast, get more people on because I tell you, the guests I have on my show are very talented. I mean, some of them have written some amazing stories, whether it's been, a memoir or a novel or fantasy. I mean, I've had keynote speakers on, I've had people who do comedy because my thing is I want to empower people to tell their story. And I host
Mm,
a writers conference every year that literally I just say, you tell your story your way. Maybe your
mm,
way is in a poem, maybe it's in a song, maybe it's in a play. And a lot of people will say to me, Angela, you got to hone in on one. Like you're
mhm,
doing books, you're doing a play, you're producing this. And I'm like, you know what? When I had my shop, I'd do 5 weddings, 4 funerals, birthday arrangement, a baby arrangement. You just not need to know where you need to go.
right,
And
right.
and there are times now that I'm getting older that I do say no and say
Uh,
no, I'm not interested in that. I mean, I've had people come to me and I do some book coaching, and I feel bad saying, like, that's just not a genre I'm interested in coaching, like, I'm not the one for you. But if, like with Ken Harris's show, Foes of a Minimum Wage Guard, like, he's got a great story. I mean, about educating you about retail theft, and it's funny, and it's
right.
1 hour, and it's talking about people who are aging. I mean, nowadays people work well past retirement age. I mean, I'll be working well past retirement age. I mean, hopefully I'll be, having a movie done by then, but
I don't doubt that you will be. I just interviewed him, and what a great story, and the fact that he could do something creative and funny and serious and relevant,
yeah,
and in particular, something that helps defend and support,
yeah.
the elder,
And
community.
and I mean, he inspires me a lot because he portrays 12 characters on stage, one man. And the fact that he knows if you're standing over here and, you're twirling your hair, now he's playing the girl character, or if he's over here and he's got this like pointy, it's like, the characters and you get to know them. And I watch him and, we've talked about a couple shows I've wanted to develop because my second book, Dear Baby Get Out, I would love to see it as a one woman show. I mean, it's literally a woman's final days of pregnancy. And I mean, it's neurosis and comedy and it's crazy. And it could be one woman on stage just going, oh my God, look at the crumbs on my shirt, and it's funny. And then, I have another story about the unquiet mind of a bipolar woman, not me. I know I might seem that I'm on a couple levels, but it's like it brings in the seriousness of what bipolar is and
Mm,
how it can be treated, how it can be managed, and how hilarious it really can be. Because if I
yeah.
don't laugh about it some days, I'll cry all day.
And, that's the craft and that's the art that gets through to people when it's human and you can laugh and you can
Yeah.
cry because that's real life.
Yeah.
That's real life.
Yeah.
I have to end this interview. It's been a delight having
Yes.
you. I'm so pleased to have met you.
Oh, I
Everything the producer said about you is 100% on target.
oh,
You are a charmer for sure,
all right. Well,
and I
I
wish you
look
all the
forward to
best.
hopefully meeting you in person. We are going to be bringing folks at minimum wage guard out to Boston. You're in Boston, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So I'll definitely let you know. But if you know venues who want us, let us know too.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.